All right, everybody. Welcome to our team time. It is almost the end of January. Is this crazy town or is this crazy town, right? We're almost through the first month of January. And today we're going to be talking about a couple things. But before we go there, I did want to review our creed, if you will, which is I will persist until I succeed. I was not delivered into this world in defeat, nor does failure course in my veins. I am not a sheep waiting to be prodded by my shepherd. I am a lion and I refuse to talk, to walk, to sleep with the sheep. So this past weekend, we kicked off the 6-week boot camp that the Compass crew is leading, or the coach training crew. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what our takeaways from that. We're going to talk about how important your voice is, a couple of upcoming events, and if we have time, I definitely want to dive into a case study. And so this past weekend was on fire. Type a 3 into the chat if you watched the training from this past weekend, because it was so good. And as I was trying to think, oh my goodness, what are we gonna like milk from this to just dissect? Whoo, it was hard. But Susan was on there, and I would love to hear from Susan if you would be willing to share, your favorite takeaway. What is one thing that stood out for you?
One thing that's hard. I think it was probably Dan Bell because he was on fire. Um, my takeaway was that it really needs to come from our goals need to come from our heart, a heartfelt conviction is what he said, is what's going to move us. We think with our brain, our mind, but we get into action with our heart. And I am guilty of that because I can't, like, I've been doing this for almost 7 years and I can just kind of just go with the flow. And it, transformation is very predictable. And so my son's, so I can, kind of get into the mundane. And so it really was touching to me.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
does that heartfelt conviction, like you were talking about going into the mundane. So what does that heartfelt conviction look like? Or how do you reconnect with that heart?
That I'm really I'm really assisting. I'm a piece of people's transformation, and it can be really dramatic for people, life changing, and I take that for advantage. Sorry, my son's on the Xbox. Just a second.
That's okay. So I'm curious to hear from you guys. Like, I know that I have shared the story of my flight with Karen Ragsdale, now Dunscombe, and how that was so like mind blowing. And I was in full on ugly crying by the time we even took off. The plane took off. It was just so amazing to see the impact that we have on people's lives and as clients. And then just I can tell you story after story after story of like story of coaches, right? And so I would love for you to take yourself off of mute and share one story of a client or a coach that you're like, oh my gosh, was I a part of that? That is so amazing. Oh my goodness. Like where you blow yourself away. Can you think of one, Susan?
Yeah, she was one of my first clients. She dropped about 120 pounds and came off two blood pressure medications, and she met somebody and got married. And she can exercise and run, and so yeah, it was a big change for her.
Yes. Anybody else? Go ahead and take yourself off of mute.
I can, Donnie.
Go ahead, Felicity.
For me, I mean, it was like Susan, one of my first clients, and now coaches, Marcy. I mean, I have to remind myself where she was at when we first started chatting. I knew her husband through growing up with him in church. And I mean, she was a train wreck. And I mean, she went on to, I mean, and that's what she told me, and she went on to lose, what, 140, 145 pounds. And I mean, she's just a totally different person. I mean, like Phoenix rising from the ashes is like a perfect description of her.
Yes, I have goosebumps, you guys. I have goosebumps. Melissa, were you going to share one?
Yeah, one of my newer clients, Nancy, that she started just after Thanksgiving, and she has dealt with trigeminal neuralgia decades now, and going on Optavia and the anti-inflammatory process. I still want to get her to tell her story. She will get on Mission Possible again. But yes, all of the facial pain has gone away, and temporarily, at least, for a number of days, the temporal area did too. And even with it being back, it's not nearly as severe. She didn't think that would ever go away.
Okay, if you have goosebumps, type goosebumps into the chat, right? Because I have goosebumps hearing these stories. And as you were talking, I was just remember some. Now, of course, we have to say results not typical. We're not going to cure trigeminal neuralgia, nor are we going to cure Crohn's disease. But there's a story of a coach and a client, of course, that's part of our community that said that she had not had a hug from anybody in her family because it would hurt her anytime somebody would hug her because she had Crohn's disease. And so can you imagine, after getting the relief from the inflammation, she could get a hug from her grandkids where they could squeeze her right around her waist. What kind of impact is that, right? And here we're talking about the impact of like the physical transformation. But there was something about the story that JC's coach shared that like lit a fire underneath me. And I think it's worth us listening to it again because I want to hear what you guys take from that story. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and hopefully this will work. Here we go.
So Karen, if you want to come in and join me now. So I just want to tee this up by sharing, first of all, if you've never met me, my name's Dr. JC Dornick, coaching for almost 19 years now. And I too was impacted by the impact event. But even after 19 years, I still find myself getting jammed up about certain things. And one of those things is just, what role do I play as a mentor, as a business coach, or as a coach to my clients? What role do I play in their success? I don't know if you can resonate with that, but sometimes I think that other people will succeed if I do a good job and things like that. So I've identified a couple of things, and that'll help me tee up this amazing human that I have here with me. And one is that people are either going to do things or not. Human beings make their own decision to go no matter what, right? So I can't get people to do that. I might lead by example, but I can't get them to do that. The second thing that I realize is I have 19 years of experience. And for those of you that don't feel like you do, well, 19 years ago, I was in your shoes building that experience. So you're right where you need to be, as Dawn said. But what I know is that the value of the full offering and all the skill sets that I have to offer are only of value if somebody is ready to receive them and turn them into action, move from jacuzzi into action. And this amazing human, I like to say, just for whatever reason, God and the universe, out of the 6 billion people out there, decided to put us together, right? Just think about how crazy that is. Karen Frazier is only coaching for 1 week. Now, we don't usually do this in trainings, but this is a very, very special thing because I want to demonstrate something. Karen is one of those unique people, unicorns, right? That I didn't have a role in the decision she made, but she made a decision. She was impacted by the event, and she's gone from jacuzzi into pivotal, into full-on action. We did, right after impact, we did 7 health assessments. She actually is now doing them on her own, just 1 weekend. Don't get into contemplation and comparative reality. This is what happens when any of you make a decision. She's already doing them on her own. She's got her first 2 clients. So Karen, what I'd love you to just take a couple minutes and explain as we kick this off, What happened? Because I remember we got along great, but something happened to you at the Impact event. You said what a lot of people said to me, like, "Oh, I'm all in. This is going to be the change for the rest of my. I'm going to save the world." But you went into action. Just share with everybody, no pressure, what happened there and how that translated into action.
Well, thank you so much, JC. And I have to put my timer on because when I start talking about subjects like this, I tend to go a while, but I know we only have a couple of minutes. So anyway, I first of all, thank God for JC. I've known him in such a short period of time, but I've learned so much from him during that time. I thank God for Dan. I heard Dan poured into JC, and I know Dr. A poured into JC. So thank you, because now JC can pour into me. So thank you so much. Okay, just to backtrack real quickly and give me like 1 minute. When I first met Dr. JC, and I like to be transparent. I loved him right away, just his personality, his honesty, his transparency. I really loved it. So I stayed connected because of who he was. Then when I started seeing the program, to be honest, at first, I was not too excited, okay? Because I've been into the natural health field for quite a few years. So I wasn't really too excited about some of it because I wasn't used to that type of system. But I knew I needed a system because for years I've been trying my best to help people improve their well-being, and I've helped some, but not nearly as many as I know I could have because I did not have a system. So anyway, as I started looking into Optavia more closely, and especially the impact, it made me see that Optavia is not just it's not just a system of eating, fueling your body and eating healthy, but it's really a community that deals with life. It's life. And one thing I've learned is in order to serve anyone and live a fulfilled life, you have to have a service or product. And really, we're the product, we're the service. We're serving people, we're presenting ourselves. And then you have to have knowledge. And there's a scripture that says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. So you have to have knowledge, you have to have those tools available. And then you have to have a community. There's another scripture that says, in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. So you have to have community. And what I see in Optavia is we have all of that. We have all of that. Just as community. This is what I was praying for. Even at the beginning of the year, I asked God, Lord, you know my heart. You know what I want to do. You know how I want to serve people. I just need that missing link. What am I missing? And I told my sister yesterday, sis, I found it. I found what I was missing. So I just thank God for this community. I thank God for Optavia and what you guys are doing, and just the whole concept of meeting people where they are, and then helping them even to move further and live a fulfilled life. So I'm going to stop.
Okay. I want to hear from you guys. What did you get from her sharing? What caught your attention?
She needed a system that brings impact.
Does that resonate with you, Susan? I love that. I love that you caught that. That you're the one that pointed that out. Anything else that you guys can see or picked up on?
I love that she focused on we need a product, but the product's us, and that connection is really important. That's why she connected with JC, is because they had connected and she maintained that, but also that we have a community that deals with life. It's not just your weight, it's with life. And who does not have life happening at some time in their world?
Yeah. Yep. Anything else? So the part that really, really tugged at my heartstrings was her saying, I was praying for this. Did you guys hear her saying she was praying for weight loss? What was she praying for?
She was praying for a system to help people and create that impact, like Susan was saying.
So that story reminded me that there are people out there like me that were looking for a way to help people and generate an income, that are like literally praying for that. And the question is, am I willing to be their answer to prayer? So last week, I had this thought in my brain. I was like, I wanted, like, I had it like this click vision, and not vision, but, without letting too much out of the bag. But I was like, I want to do this for the coaches. How do we do this? Like, I literally had the thought. 20 minutes later, my phone rings. It's my friend David Bush. He's like, Donnie, do you have a minute to chat? I didn't. I didn't. And we played phone tag for 3 hours. And 3 hours later, we connected. He did not know what was going through my mind. He did not know my prayer. Okay. And yet he called me to say, hey, I was wondering what you think about this idea. And I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And that he was an answer to prayer for me, not realizing that I was praying for it. Okay. And this is the thing, is that there are people out there that are crying themselves to sleep at night, whether it's because of their weight, whether it's because of their frustration with their current situation, their job, their income, their whatever. And I don't know about you, but I get inside my head sometimes and I'm like, oh, do people want to hear from me? Are they tired of hearing from me? No. Anybody else have any of those conversations going on in their brain? Me, right? And here's this woman that is so excited. In 1 week, she did 7 health assessments and started 2 clients. That right there is evidence that there are people out there that are looking for us, both for the program in terms of weight loss and the business. And that was a kick in the pants that I was needing. And I absolutely love that. It like reignited me just hearing her again. And it's not like she had this mind-blowing transformation. Did you guys notice that? She didn't even talk about her transformation. She just said, I was praying for this. I found what I was looking for. Okay. She's only been here with us for about a week. And she's like, I found what I was looking for. Have you found what you were looking for? I'd love to hear from you. What is something you have found that you were looking for?
Community keeps me going every time that I take a step back.
And so when you said, when you take a step back, community draws you back in, is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, just that fully integrated. I always try to get there with all of my clients. It can be a struggle with some, but yeah, the more involved I am, the more benefit it has for me. And it does for everyone else too, because we share our stories and our struggles and our celebrations.
Yes. Yes. I have goosebumps again because Melissa and I did not talk about my agenda for today. And yet this is such a perfect segue into what I was talking about before, that your voice is important. Has anybody here ever heard me say what the secret to success is in this program? What is the secret to success? Anybody know? Anybody ever heard me say it? Go ahead and take yourself off of mute. I'd love to hear that I have said it or that somebody's heard it.
Well, I always remember you, Donnie, saying ever since I started, and I think I'm one of the oldies but goodies, get plugged in and stay plugged in.
Get and stay plugged in. Get and stay plugged in, right? Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Felicity, for sharing that, right? Get and stay plugged in. But just like Susan was saying, sometimes if we hear it too many times, especially if we hear it just from one voice, you start tuning it out. Okay. And so, like Melissa was saying, she shows up and she's like, sometimes it's hard to get our clients in. It like blows my mind. I had a client that I worked with for years. It was a junior high friend of mine. And I kept saying, girl, you got to plug in. Girl, got to plug in. She never had time to plug in Then she disconnected from Optavia. And all of a sudden I see she's lost all this weight. And I was like, girl, you look amazing. Congratulations. What'd you do? Well, Donnie, I just have to tell you, I found this community. I found this community and I discovered the light went on that there's power and magic in community. So now she wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning and goes to the gym to meet with her community every morning. And she's been doing it now for like the past 3 years, keeping her weight off because she's staying plugged in. And it's not our community, but she wasn't ready to hear it from me. It wasn't that I didn't say it. And I love what I included the part that JC talked about in the beginning, because sometimes I'm like, what do I have to do? How do I get people to do this? Right? But this is the thing, is all I say only has value when somebody's ready to receive it. And I have no control over that. I have no control over that. But what we do have in this community is community. In this community right here of coaches, we have community. And Mission Possible is not Donnie's party. It's our party, right? And so we've been having more voices in there, and I'm so grateful to all of the coaches that are pitching in for our vitamin C topics to draw attention. Did you guys notice that there were more people on vitamin C this past week? Did you guys notice that? I don't think that was by mistake. I think that was intentional because they're seeing more engagement and they're hearing more voices. Okay. And so I wanted us to kind of, with a united front, to keep repeating in every way you can think possible, get and stay plugged in. Get and stay plugged in. Not just on your client calls, but like when you experience the benefit of community, go into Mission Possible and say, oh, I just got filled because la 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 la, right? Or when your client shares the benefit, and if they're willing to go on a Facebook Live with you so that you guys can share, so that we're repeating it and we're repeating it and we're repeating it, so that when people are ready to hear it, it's going to be said, and it's going to be said in a voice that they hear, right? And I had intended to go over a lot more things today, but I think this is what we needed to cover. Really, our big takeaways. And I'd love for you to type into the chat if you were on this weekend. What was your biggest takeaway from the weekend event? And the whole idea of, please pitch in to Mission Possible and share your version of get and stay plugged in. Whether it be a Facebook Live, whether it be a post, whether it be a meme, whether it be whatever, where we're constantly bombarding and reminding people that getting and staying plugged in is not just taking your coach's call. It's plugging into the community. It's plugging into the habits of health system, right? It's becoming a coach. All of those parts together are what are going to make people move forward. So, Melissa, do you think you being a coach has any part to do with you being drawn back into community?
Every single day.
Yeah.
I look forward to these meetings and the community time.
Yay! And how crazy is this? Okay. Felicity was talking about how Marcy is the client that kind of gives her the tingles, right? And because Marcy helped Heidi, helped Kristen, Melissa is here. How, once again, goosebumps, you guys, goosebumps. Felicity, did you know Melissa like 2 years ago?
No, I did not.
This is called legacy, you guys.
Not even a year and a half ago.
This is called legacy, okay? When your decision today is impacting lives years down the road that you don't even know yet. And one of the things that Dan Bell said was, this is the year of new, which means I want new clients and I want new coaches. Love me, my oldies, right? I love me, you guys. But there are too many people out there that are crying themselves to sleep, praying for a solution, and I cannot hide any longer, right? So I want new clients and I want new coaches. Is it because I want them? Yes, I do want to build an empire, but the reason I want to build an empire is because I want to have more stories like this, like Felicity and Melissa, okay? Of Heather. Heather and I are 3 generations apart, okay? And the generations between her, they're no longer involved. And I thank the heavens that we were connected. Okay. So you are here for a reason. And your presence here and the choices you make today are going to impact lives later on. Or not. Or not. It's entirely up to you. Right. And that's part of what Dan Bell talked about. He said, this is a heart thing because heart will drive the action. But without action, there's no impact. There's no legacy. Right. And there's no benefit to us even, right? To them, to us, to anybody. So I do want to review a couple of the upcoming events, even though we're not going to get into any of the other stuff that I had planned to, but I think this is what we all needed to hear, myself included. So a couple things that are going on. First of all, I posted the details for this next Sunday's vitamin C into Mission Possible. And what happens is that because I didn't actually include an image and I just put the link in, it like populated the image from the link. So Melissa asked me if it was if possible to make it shareable. So I will post the actual link to the image into Coaches on a Mission, because when I posted it into Mission Possible, it just created. Anyways, I want to make it so that you guys can copy the link and share it. Okay. And if you talk about it, like once again, if you're going into Mission Possible and saying, this is what I'm reading, this is what I'm finding, this is what, whether you're assigned to the day or not, okay, it's going to draw people's attention to say, what's going on, right? Not only in terms of the community, but also in terms of the Habits of Health system, okay? So that's pinned to the top on Mission Possible. We are on day 8 of the Fat Burn Challenge, and I continue posting like a little prompt each day. I was a little late with posting it today, but I've scheduled it for the rest of the week. And so we'll be wrapping that up next Sunday. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys are still engaging with that. Tomorrow night, we are hosting the How to Get the Most from Medical Weight Loss. So not everybody wants medications, nor do we want to push medications. Okay. That is not our heart. But there are a lot of people out there that are taking medications thinking it's either this or that. Even my friend that's now working her butt off at 4 o'clock in the morning every morning, right? And looking great, doing great. Nothing wrong with that. Could she use us too? Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. So ultimately, what we want to do is we want to awaken people to a couple of facts. Number one, if they're struggling, there's nothing wrong with them. Okay. This is a complicated problem and maybe they need help. Okay. And that's okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that for those that are taking medications, we want to open up their horizons to say, look, what we do is not in competition with, it's actually a complement to, right? And so that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow on that thing. If you have not yet registered, I invite you to register yourself. It's on this link, bit.ly/medical-weight-most. Okay. And I put a lot of the details pinned to the top on Coaches on a Mission as well. And then the next thing is that the Power Hour is back. And I wanted to thank Heather last week for hosting Power Hour when the Power Hour leaders were taking a break. The link to the recording is this right here. Okay. And I will be posting that to the top of Coaches on a Mission as well. But here's the information. It's every day at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. And so I invite you to plug in. Okay. And we're not going to have time to go through the case study. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and wish you guys a good night, and we are wrapping up on time. It is the 22nd of the month, And so I invite you to look at your map. If you're not using your map, that was one of the things that Dan Bell talked about. The tools that he talked about was number 1, structural tension. Number 2, your map. Number 3, your calendar. And number 4, your list. Okay. Each one of those could be a full like weekend workshop in and of itself, right? But I'm curious to find out, do you have a map that you filled out? Do you know what your goal was? What is your goal for the number of clients, for the number of coaches, for your group volume, all of those things for this month? So go back and look at your map to see where you are. We're going to be talking about structural tension this next Sunday in terms of healthy body piece, right? But remember that this applies to every area of our lives. And so if you have not filled in a structural tension for your business, for your life, I'd be happy to connect. Felicity and I worked on that recently. And so I'd be happy to help you work on that. Okay. And then of course your list and your calendar. If it doesn't go from here to here to here, nobody gets help, right? So, and your calendar, if you promote your calendar to boss, then it gets done. So with that, you guys have a good night. We will see you back tomorrow for the webinar. I hope to see you there. And we'll see you on Saturday. Oh, I didn't mention the workshop, the 6-week training. This past week was the first week. This next week is going to be the second week. I did post the link to where all of the recordings are being housed, pinned to the top on Coaches on a Mission as well. But if you are not a member of the group called Coach Training, I invite you to join, because that's where they're streaming it live. That's where all of the resources are. So join the group called Coach Training, and then check out Coaches on a Mission pinned for where the recordings are. Okay. All right, guys, have a good night.